It's Wednesday, March 29th, 2017. It's time for WorthPoint Chats with Harry Rinker. I'm Greg Watkins, the editor at WorthPoint.com, and it's time to talk with Harry about all things antiques and collectibles. How you doing, Harry?
Hey, I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
You have a team in the Final Four, we want to know.
I didn't have time to even look at a bracket this year.
You did not. Well, I got North
but I will say that I did watch a lot of Gonzaga in the 90s when I was covering San Francisco, University of San Francisco for the papers over there. So,
yeah, but they got an easy bracket. Come on, man. They don't belong where they are.
Well, they have an easy conference. I don't know how easy the bracket was.
Okay. Well, anyway.
I didn't watch. So anyway.
Enough of all this. Here's the name of the game. Don't buy anything associated with any March Madness Final Four thing unless you go to that university, because it's not going to have any value in the secondary market.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's the same with Super Bowl things and World Series. And yeah.
Hey, listen, did you see they caught that enterprising gentleman from down in was it Mexico, wherever, that was stealing all the memorabilia from the Super Bowl and other places?
No, I didn't see that one.
They caught the guy. He had reporter credentials, and he was using it to get in the locker rooms to steal stuff.
Oh, so he was stealing actual game-used items.
And he had two of Brady's shirts.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
And they got him on video, and they raided his place in Mexico, and the paper said, "We don't know nothing about him." No, it's funny. But anyway, but Mr. Brady got his stuff back, which is very nice. You know, and as Brady pointed out, you know, it's nice to have the jacket back, but I got the ring and he doesn't, you know, so what more can you say? However, I heard this week that people always went, what does all this have to do with collectability, right? But Brady says he wants to play another 7 years.
I don't know about 7. I bet he can do 2 or 3.
Well, the thing about it is that he clearly wants to be the greatest quarterback of all time. He already is in his mind, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But the truth of the matter is that if he should win another Super Bowl, you know, he's going to do a lot for the long-term value of his collectibles. I mean, it's fun to watch the whole secondary sports market, which is wasn't where I was going to go tonight, but we could take a few minutes and talk about that anyway. And that is that there are legendary players like Joe DiMaggio, Mickey Mantle, Ted Williams in baseball, you know, Babe Ruth and so forth in baseball, who simply transcend everything. You know, and the fact that they're all good Yankees is a whole other matter. We won't go there. But anyway,
there's the Phillies
that in every sport there are legends, and long-term survivability of name is critical. If you went up to somebody and said, name me 5 players from the 1920s in the Football Hall of Fame, or name me 9 or 5 players from the 1920s in the Baseball Hall of Fame, you know, you have to give it a lot of thought. You might get some, okay, but you couldn't name 20 of them or 10 of them easily, right? And so
yeah, I see your point.
But no, it's like in music. You say, okay, who's collectible in music, right? Well, what's the name of the game? Beatles. Although, you know, this is one of the things. I haven't written a column about rats and ships, but I think I need to do that. About when
is the Beatles ship sinking?
No, when do rats start deserting the sinking ship? And it turns out that one of the largest collectors of Beatle memorabilia is putting his collection up for auction.
Who's that?
Some fellow in England, I believe. But the point of the matter is, I think he's smart, because I think that market's peaked. I mean, the Beatles have survived 3 generations, and they're still pretty strong, and they're still interested in their stuff. But the generation that grew up with the Beatles in the 60s, and you know, that's the hard thing to remember, that the Beatles were only together for 10 years. They broke up in 1970. So, you know, the people that remember that era are my age and older. In another 50 years, I mean, come on. Who collects Perry Como stuff? Doris Day stuff. Frank Sinatra stuff.
Glenn Miller and Artie Shaw, right?
Yeah, no, Glenn Miller. You can't say that about Glenn Miller. My only comment about Glenn Miller is music died the day Glenn Miller's plane went down. That's my opinion.
That's
but I'll
yours.
dive too, and then no one will care. So it's there. But anyway, what I want to talk about tonight is a name I don't think many Americans know, and that's Barnabys, Barnebys, Barnabys.com. Now, you know I do a radio show on the weekends called What You Got. It's on Sunday mornings from 8 to 10 Eastern, and then 7 to 9 Central, 6 to 8 Mountain, 5 to 7 Pacific time. But our viewers can catch it by going to www.gcnlive.com. And at 9:30 every week, I usually interview someone involved in the trade, an author or somebody, right? And
Yes.
this past weekend, that would be March the 26th, because the shows are archived, just like we have our things archived on YouTube. The shows are archived up on gcnlive.com. And if you went to March 26th, hour to about halfway through the hour, you would hear an interview with me and a gentleman named Pontus Silverstolpe. Now, you probably never heard of Pontus.
I never heard of Pontus, but that is a name that goes into the collection.
No, well, first of all, besides the fact that the chief honcho in the U.S. is known by Pontus, but anyway, this is the guy's name. He lives in Sweden, and he owns a website called Barnabys. Now, Barnabys is one of those websites that has multiple variations up there. There you go. Okay, Barnabys.com, Barnabys.co.uk, Barnabys.de, and so forth. Now, go up there and hit the blog thing. Can you see where it says a blog? Our blog, hit that.
Yeah.
Okay, can you get the blog up? Oh, okay, now, as it so happens, the lead story is, so what happened in 2016 and what to expect by Pontus Silverstolpe, right?
Yeah.
Now, let's talk a little bit about what Barnabys is. Barnabys is a site kind of like Asgard or no, wait a minute, what am I thinking of here? What's invaluable? What's the site that puts all the auction catalogs up there and prices realized, right? Finearts.com, is that one?
Yeah.
No, Asgard.com is one, Invaluable.com is another one, right?
Right.
Well, this company is the European equivalent of that. They have 1,600 auction houses, material up on their site. Okay. Now, normally, all those other sites are about what's up there and what is it's sold for, right? Those, what is it? What's it sold for? What makes Barnabys different is that Pontus Silverstolpe and others analyze the results from these 1,600 auctions and issue blogs talking about market trends. Okay?
Yeah.
And I've been following this stuff for over a year. And this is the best, without a doubt, the best way to look at what's going on in the market globally. Now, admittedly, it's auction focused, and admittedly, it's a little bit European focused. But it's a dumb thing if you don't understand that we live in a global world, and what happens in the global market affects everybody, including the United States. So I also get a set of press releases from their PR firm. A couple of them in front of me, and I want to talk about some of them in that one. Now, what you're seeing there is a thing he did in 2016 about some of the major trends for the year, right?
Right.
But the press release was more significant, and it raised a number of really interesting points. First of all, he believes, and I think there's a lot of truth to this, that there is a growing importance of online bidding, especially at the high end, but across the sales of antiques and collectibles as a whole. Okay, and they're saying now that for international auction houses, 35% of the bids come in over the internet. Okay, now that's a number we're hearing in the States too, right?
Yes, that's about right.
And that seems about right. Okay, however, here's what's interesting in their conclusion. The widening use of online bidding includes wealthy younger buyers. Okay, that's important. Okay, but that group is over 50% buying online. In fact, they're not even bothering to go there on that. So the millennials, the so-called millennials, this group is fascinated with the millennials, and I think they certainly should be fascinated with the millennials. They did a report of the millennials. I just wanted to share some of that, right? Half of those, now these are the millennials, right? Yeah. Half of those who bought at auction have only done so online. Never set foot in a store.
Never been to a live auction.
Nope.
Yeah.
Online auction buyers are more frequent buyers than those who go to auctions. And more than half of Barnaby's traffic is from millennials 18 to 34-year-old, comes via mobile, by phone, as opposed to computer and pad. That the phone is becoming a major implementation in that. Now, this kind of trend, we need to, I mean, look, let's face it. The antiques and collectibles trade in the U.S. has to change. It has to adapt to this digital age. It just has to adapt to this thing. You know, the assume that we're going to do business the old-fashioned way. I mean, come on, remember when auction houses issued printed catalogs? Now, most auction houses don't do printed catalogs. You get the catalog on the air. You know, you get an email or you get, I mean, if the catalog is up online, right?
Right.
You know that. Now, it's true that there's some that are still doing, but it's fascinating to see the emphasis that this company puts on that as well. I mean, I have to tell you, now, you had that report up on the screen, right? And there's all kinds of charts in there. But one of the interesting things was, where are the expanding art markets? And wow, I was fascinated by this. First of all, he said there's a lot of interest in contemporary art from Africa, Latin America, India, and Cuba. Now, you know, you have to hear the word contemporary here, because this is speculative art buying. Okay, and you got to speculate in this stuff. You better hope it has long-lasting value, because those of us who have been around the game long enough realize that, hey, wait a minute, maybe not. Right now, people are making good money buying and selling it, but will it last for 20, 30 years? Maybe not. But they also point out in this report that female artists, especially well-known ones like Frida Kahlo and Georgia O'Keeffe, are hotter than heck. And this is a trend that's been going on in the art market for the last decades, at least 2 decades in America. Women artists, and not only famous ones, but regionally too. Women's art is huge. Now there may be some that argue that women can paint as well as men, and clearly the academically trained ones can. But there's a lot of middle and low range art signed by women that's getting bought because it's women art as opposed to quality art. But there's a lot of movement in this thing. Well, this company, Barnabys.com, I'm going to really be following this over the next years and months, because it's an extremely important group out there. And there are a lot of other things we can talk about. We're going to take a break, however, because, as it turns out, we got an interesting question in this week from a viewer about a 62-inch by 85-inch woolen blanket that belonged to her mother. She bought it in the early 1950s when she went west with her best girlfriends on a road, possibly train trip to the West Coast, ending up in California. There's the blanket. You notice on the lower right, there's a little round label there. The round label reads Glacier Park Blanket, Pendleton Woolen Mills, Pendleton, Oregon. My husband and I used it on our bed until we were transferred to Florida in the 1980s. I had it dry cleaned and stored it since. I'm curious about its value. All right. So here we are. I mean, we know everything about it. It's a Glacier Park blanket from Pendleton Woolen Mills in Pendleton, Oregon, and it's a blanket associated with the national park, right?
Yes.
Now, if you heard the name Pendleton Woolen Mills, what would you think of?
I would think of wool shirts.
Yes, you would. Absolutely.
Would. That's right.
No. That's the right answer. That's one of the right answers. They also made blankets for the Native Americans, the Indian tribes.
Okay.
The Nez Perce, the Navajo, is right?
Yeah. Right.
And they were one of these. That's a little history about Pendleton Mills. But no, you're right. You're right. Good. Three brothers, Clarence Ray and Chauncey Bishop, took an old woolen mill that had been in Pendleton, Oregon in 1919, in 1909, and reviving, it had been built earlier, revived it into a woolen mill that made bed blankets and robes for Native Americans. They resumed that production, beginning with the designs that appealed first to the Nez Perce Nation. That's the one that's up around that area. And then finally for the Hopi, Navajo, and things. Then in the 1920s, it expanded its line into shirts, right?
Right. That's what I know.
And into 1949 into women's wear. And you would know Pendleton shirts. There's wonderful heavy duty, outdoor shirts, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, so here's this blanket. Now, shortly after Montana's Glacier National Park was established in 1910, James Hill, that's a name, if you know anything about railroad history, he was the head of the old group of railroads that made up the Great Northern Railroad, okay? He asked Pendleton Woolen Mills to create a blanket design to be used exclusively in the lodge at Glacier Park. Pendleton decided, well, we would incorporate some of the colors that are familiar with the park. So they looked at the leaves and stuff and came up with this color pattern in there. And the blanket debuted in 1916, okay? All right, you ready for this?
Yeah.
It's still made today, exactly the same way it was made in 1916. In fact, there are 10 Pendleton Woolen Mill National Park blanket designs: Arcadia, Badlands, Crater Lake, Glacier, Grand Canyon, Great Smoky Mountain, Mount Rainier, Rocky Mountain, Yellowstone, and Yosemite. And the logos for each blanket, as I said, capture the design of vintage souvenir window stickers presented to motorists who visit the park. Yeah, the logos on the thing. Okay, now, here's the problem. The blanket she has is queen size. The blankets come in three sizes. Three sizes: twin, standard, and queen. No king size. All right?
Mm-hmm.
So here's the question. A new one you can buy from Pendleton, a new one, for $269. Now, Backcountry listed at $258.95, but offers 20% off. So literally for $200, you can get a new one, queen size, same as this one, right?
Yeah, right.
So now the question is, does new trump old? That was a pun about the president, but we won't go there. Okay?
Okay.
But this is a case where new does trump old, because why would you buy an old one if you get a new one for less than the old one? Okay? So what happens is the old ones normally sell for about 30 to 60% of modern retail, which brings us around to WorthPoint, because you went up to WorthPoint and you found a slew of stuff, right?
I did. There are 339 of these Pendleton Glacier Park blankets that are listed.
Okay, now you have to be careful. You have to be careful because they did. Pendleton Woolen Mills is not dumb. They do special issue blankets every year, and they did a 100th anniversary one. You see the first one there?
Yes, and it's different.
Okay, we can't count that. But let's look at the next two. What did the next two bring?
Okay, so I have these by price. So
okay,
so the highest price for just a regular 68-inch by 86-inch is $255.
Yeah, but you don't know if that's old or new.
We do not know,
because
correct.
That's a price new.
Right.
I can tell you it is.
Okay, so keep going. Is the label the same?
Yes, and that's what makes it tough. You can't tell.
So it's manufactured the same way, even you know, I imagine that the image would be the same.
No, they're the same. They're the same. Keep on going down.
Okay.
All right, then you got 245, right?
Right, and that was 2013.
Right.
These look like they're new.
Yes, they do. And you got to be a little careful because there's, again, some of them are there. So keep going. All right, now, you know what you need to do? You need to type the word vintage into the cut line.
All right.
That'll get us the older ones.
All right, so that kicked out 130 of them.
Yep.
So now we're down to the vintage.
Right. So let's start with the one on the right there in that one.
The one on the right, this one over here?
Yep. What do you got in that?
That's the $200. Now the label looks to be different. This is, let's see.
No, that's
the Glacier Park blanket. That's what it says, but it's a different label.
That is a different label. I have no idea why that's on there. That may be a very early example, but I wouldn't think so. Let's keep going. Huh. I'm not interested.
So this one, I'm just giving it a quick look.
That makes it an oddity, so that could be part of it. Keep going.
All right. So there's no date on that one.
Nope. But that was 2016. Moving on down. And now we're getting a lot of them there.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at that one row there.
This one here?
Start with that one. Yeah. No, the one right above it. Start with those four. Yeah, 150. Okay.
Yeah, 150. It's got a bin number. Oh no, that's the eBay seller. Let's see.
No, that's all right. Just keep going. Just keep going.
Yeah. No dates on that one.
Right, but see, much cheaper than new now, right?
Yes, right. That's your point. That it is cheaper than new.
Yes, exactly. Although that's a strong price for that, I would think.
Okay, so last year, this one, this is the 90-inch queen size.
Okay.
150.
Yeah. Yeah, that seems to keep going. All right, scroll down. Let's scroll down the list a little bit. 140, right? Scrolling on down the list, as they say. The question is, what can you get? What's a reasonable price to be thinking about? Now,
Well, let's see what they're selling for today. I'll just change it to most recent.
Oh, good idea.
And we'll see what they're going for now.
You know what? This is always good.
All right, the most recent one was $100, 96, 65, 109.
Yep.
So a little 120, 122.50, and here's one that went for 35. So somebody didn't know what they were selling there.
Right, but there 60, you go.
99, 75.
Yeah. And that's where my head was. That 75 to $100. 100 to 100 and a quarter if they're in excellent condition. The color, lesser condition examples for under 75, and I think that's right where we are with that. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, but this is the question again, though. Let's say, all right, you got to pay 100 a quarter for a used one, and 200 for a new one. Why wouldn't you buy a new one? I don't know. Who knows? But anyway,
well, you could be really cheap, or you could just have a thing for that old stuff and just like the idea.
I always have a thing for that old stuff. That's what I keep telling my wife. But anyway, you got to watch me here. Anyway, but we would like to get some questions in from our viewers, right? And we have a way for them to do that.
We do.
Community@worthpoint.com. Community@worthpoint.com. Send us a question. If you're going to send us a question about an object, please be as descriptive as possible. Size, markings, how you acquired it, what you paid for it. It's helpful, and as many JPEG pictures as you can, preferably in focus and easy for us to see. Details are greatly appreciated.
That's right, like being able to see that label up close.
Yeah. Now I know we often spend a lot of time on this stuff, but I got an interesting question in this week I want to talk about that doesn't have an object attached to it, but it's an important question.
Just a question.
You know what irradiated glass is?
You mean like the carnival glass?
No, that's iridescent. That's an iridescent piece of glass.
Irradiated glass.
Irradiated glass to radiation.
Okay.
Now, a lot of people took clear glass and put it in car trunks or heated it in the oven or did whatever they did besides radiating it to get it to change color, because glass is sold on color, you know, and
right.
a red color is there. So I got
so that's like, is that like the old medicine bottles that they bake and they turn from clear to purple?
Yes, indeed it is, sir.
Yeah.
So I got a question in from a gentleman. Said, could you please tell me if there's a place to test if glass is irradiated? I have a leak vase that has been appraised in the past for a decent value. When I attempted to sell it at auction, I was informed that the piece had been irradiated and subsequently has little value. I did not know glass could be irradiated. The piece has a deep blue color. Oh, alarm bell, alarm bell.
Yeah, they didn't do that color, did they?
No. That made it rare, so he thought. Is there a piece? Now, irradiation, the exposure of glass to radiation to change the color, has been practiced for over 40 years. Unfortunately, by unscrupulous antique and collectible collectors and dealers since the 1990s to create scarce and unique colors in glass. It was a huge issue. I remember back in the 1980s going to a meeting of the glass insulator collectors who had found out that people were cooking stuff in the oven and throwing chemicals in there and irradiating glass to create rare colors. Now, Mark Cervenka, you know who Mark Cervenka is, right?
Right.
He used to have Antique News. And even though he doesn't do it anymore, a lot of his columns are still up on the net. And he has a column called Irradiation Changes Color of Glass. And here's what Mark has to say, and I think it's important we share this with our viewers. He says, contrary to rumors, a Geiger counter cannot be used to detect irradiated glass, okay? Now, a Geiger counter can be used to identify fluorescent glass because uranium was used in that, in Vaseline glass and some red glass, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Irradiated glass, remember, is not radioactive. Determining whether a piece of glass has been irradiated is not easy. A small portion of the glass must be tested, and the test can cost $125 to $250. And the test determines whether the glass color is created by chemical ingredients or irradiation. All right?
All right.
Now, Mark goes on to say, $120 to $250 is a lot of money to spend on one object, okay? It says the element magnesium, for example, is used both as a decolorizer and a coloring agent. When used as a decolorizer, it shows up less than 1%, usually only a few tenths of even 1/100th of 1%. When used as a coloring agent to intentionally make glass purple, however, magnesium content rises to 4% to 30%. If a piece of deep purple glass is tested and found to contain less than 1% magnesium, it's been irradiated, right? Okay, but
Yes.
that still costs you $125 to $250. Okay, so always want to say, isn't there a cheaper way? Because I come from a thrifty group of Pennsylvania Germans. Mark goes on to say, a simpler, less expensive test is to heat the suspected item. Depending on the glass formula, the color will begin to fade at about 300 to 700 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, your oven can get to 400, 500 degrees Fahrenheit, okay?
Yes.
So you can cook it. This generally returns the glass to its original color, usually within an hour. Now, if I had a piece that had been irradiated and I wanted to try to sell it, I'd get it back to its clear form. Maybe I'd cook it out. The higher the original melting point of the glass, the higher the temperature required to reverse the color. Fruit jar is an example made of heat-resistant glass, required temperatures approaching to 600 to 800 degrees to reverse the color. But remember, leak glass wasn't meant to be cooked. It stored stuff in, so it's not going to require it. The test is not without danger, because too sudden an increase or decrease in temperature may damage the item. Another test, although less reliable, is simply to place the suspected piece in direct sunlight, which will cause the color to fade. Now, I'm going to tell you about that because I had some pieces restored at Winterthur. I'm a big fan of the Henry Francis DuPont Winterthur Museum. You know that, right?
Yes, right.
In Wilmington, Delaware. And Winterthur, I had a piece of ceramic that had gotten stained I said to the guy, I really want to get the stain out. He says, well, how long can I have it for? I said, as long as it takes to get the stain out. Do you have some chemical? You can just go up and get it out. He said, no. So I'm going to put it in direct sunlight for a couple months. And the sunlight will bleach the stain away without affecting the cobalt blue color of the piece. It did. Unbelievable.
Oh, that's cool.
There's the hydrogen peroxide and all this other stuff. But sunlight, the use of sunlight is fascinating. But anyway, you have to be very suspicious of what is, quote, rare or scarce or unique glass colors. Because the manufacturer wasn't trying to produce different colors. The manufacturer was trying to produce everything in one single solid color, whatever color that is, mostly clear or some other color. And what happens is that you have to know something about the historic ability to color glass, because not every color was available to glass manufacturers in the 18th and 19th century as they are in the 20th century. So you have to be real careful about this. And, I saw, well, you did too at flea markets in the 90s, all that purple glass, right?
Right.
People got really caught up in that. Well, sure as heck, somebody's got to play around with everything. What Mark Cervenka did in that article I was talking about that is up on the net, he paid $250 to a radiation company and had 20 pieces of glass radiated and took a picture before and after, and the results are just absolutely boggle the mind, actually. So, be careful. Be careful. If the minute that glass is an odd color or it has a light blue, purplish, or dark purple hue, be careful. I'm not saying there wasn't dark purple. Remember there was so-called black glass. Remember black glass?
Yes. Yeah.
Now there is no such thing as black glass, right?
Right.
You can't make non-opaque glass. But what happened is that they used a dark red that was so dark it looked black, unless you put it up in a light. If you take one of those pieces of black glass and put it up in a light, you'll see like a red hue through it. Probably never did that, but trust me, it works.
I don't think I've ever handled a piece of black glass.
Oh, well, it was, well, you remember all that pure white milk glass in the 40s and 50s?
Right.
There was a black glass, a corresponding black glass craze using the same molds.
Oh, okay, so like the hobnail stuff.
Yeah. But it came and went a lot more quickly than, or a lot quicker, excuse me. It came and went a lot quicker than did the milk glass kind of thing. But this is where people, you have to be careful about so-called experts in this trade. This is what always concerned us about people coming in the trade. You don't learn this stuff overnight.
No.
You learn it.
It's funny.
By arbitrage, you watch it by talking to experts. You watch it by reading a lot, and you learn it by making mistakes. I mean, I have to tell you, I made some night we'll just talk about the classic bad. You almost said a bad word there. Classic mistakes I made over time.
I think we would love to hear about your mistakes.
Well, I have to tell you, people say, what do you call the mistakes you make in the trade? And you know what my answer is?
Experience.
No, tuition.
Tuition. Yeah, I guess that's true.
All right. Well, speaking of tuition, you've got some work to do, and you're going to take a break we're going to take a break next week.
Yes. I don't think I'm going to be available.
No, you're going away.
I'm going away. I'm going to the beach and putting away all my grading and not thinking about high school students for a week.
Yes, you have my greatest joy that you will be able to do that.
I'm going to do it, whether it kills me or not. I'm going to do it.
We will do these chats on Wednesday, April 12th.
Yeah, right.
Okay, have a great week.
All right, Harry, you too. Until next week, we will. No, not next week. 2 weeks from now, right?
Yes, correct.
Get it right. Okay, so good night, Harry.
Good night, sir.